And hi, welcome to the next installment of the EpiDoc tutorials. This session, we're going to talk about symbols, or Irene is going to talk about symbols and marks in EpiDoc. And if you want to find the rest of the EpiDoc tutorials that this is part of, the URL is at the bottom of your screen right now. And I'll hand over to Irene.
Thank you. So in inscriptions and other ancient texts, we can find mainly three types of symbols. And first of all, we can find the simplest ones, which are what we can call non-meaning bearing symbols, that is, symbols that can be used as punctuation or for separating words, and they can be, for example, leaf or crux or points or diphthongs and things like that. And then we can also have some more complex cases in which we have meaning-bearing symbols which can be also expanded to words, for example, denarius, ethos, and the other examples that you can read in the slide. And then we can also have even more complex cases in which we have a mark that can be expanded to a word, but if it is left as a symbol, probably won't be very meaningful. So sometimes it can be used as a symbol which expands to a part of a word. So the expansion is really essential to the comprehension of the text. And let's consider first the first case, so the non-meaning bearing symbols. And in this case, the element that we use in EpiDoc is the G, the glyph element, which is an empty element usually, and in which we have a ref attribute, which usually points to a list of symbols which can be internal to your project in another file, in the file itself, or somewhere, and we used to point to that list. And this is why we have an hashtag at the beginning of the attribute value, because it means that this value is referring to a list, an authority list somewhere. So in the first case, we can see that we have a gref with value #leaf. And this is the case in which we treat it as an empty element. But we can also present it in a different way. So if we want to include also the Unicode character of that symbol in the file, in the markup itself, we can have an opening tag and a closing tag, as you can see at the bottom of the slide, inside which we have the character itself. And it can be the character or the HTML code of that character. It is the same. And from this, we can then decide what to display in the transformed edition. So in a critical edition, we may want to display the word leaf between brackets, round brackets, or double round brackets. And in the diplomatic edition, we can decide to display the symbol itself, but we can also decide to display the symbol in the critical edition if we want to. And the same result could be obtained also from the first case. So if we have a G element as an empty element referring to an authority list, we can have there the equivalent character corresponding to that definition. So leaf as a word, leaf as a symbol. So it is not necessary to do as displayed in the bottom of the slide. And let's consider now the second case, so meaning-bearing marks. In this case, we have, for example, a denarius, and we can decide to treat it as in the first case, so as a G element and as empty element with a ref attribute, so it is the same. But if the symbol is a meaning-bearing symbol, we can also decide to treat it as an abbreviation. So we can expand the symbol to a word. And in this case, we see that we have an expand surrounding everything, with the aber surrounding the part that is actually on the stone, inside which we have an abbreviation mark, inside which we have our G, our symbol, as in the examples that we have seen before. And in the expanded part, so in the X, we have the expanded word, so denaria in this case. And again, we can decide from this what to display in the transformed edition. We can have denaria inside brackets. Otherwise, we can display the symbol as it was in the original document. And let's go now to some of the more complex cases. So the hero. The hero could be treated in more different ways. So it can be expanded to a name, Christos, and in this case we have an expand with an abbreviation mark and an X, as in the case before. So we have the G ref with value #hero inside the abbreviation mark in the ab of the expansion. And inside the expanded part, we include the complete word corresponding to that symbol. But sometimes it can be used also to represent only a part of a word. So in the example of Christopher, the hero stands only for Christ, and it should be, and we have also author in the stone following the symbol. So in this case, we have two different ab inside the abbreviation, one with the symbol, which is expanded to Christ, and then we have another ab with the rest of the word. And in other cases, the hero can also be used not as a symbol properly, nor as the case that we have seen before, but as a ligature of the he and the rho together. So without any other reference to Christ or to its original meaning. And in this case, we are not treating it as a symbol or as an abbreviation, but as a ligature. And for ligature, we use the highlight element with a rendition rend attribute with value ligature, as in this example of Chrysophoros. And again, also in the case of the hero, we can decide to treat it simply as a symbol. So we can decide to have it just as a G with a ref with #hero as an empty element. And in all these cases, as in the previous examples, we can decide to have, instead of the empty element, to have an opening tag and a closing tag inside which we put the symbol itself. And let's consider now monograms, which are an even more complex but also rare case. Monograms can be treated as symbols, so we can have a simple G with a ref with the value #monogram pointing to our list of symbols. And this is the simplest case, but is also potentially misleading because we're not specifying what kind of monogram we have and which letters are included in this monogram. And this is the case that this is the approach that we use when we are not able to read or to decipher this monogram. In some cases, if we want to pay attention to the figurative aspect of this monogram, we can also decide to use a figure and a fig desk elements, potentially pointing also to an image of that monogram, so that the text is directly linked to the photograph or to another image of that monogram, and we can use the graphic element for pointing to external images. But in the case in which we are able to read this monogram, to expand it to a word or to a part of a word, we can treat it as an abbreviation. So again, we can have an expand surrounding everything, and in the ab we have an abbreviation mark inside which we have our G ref monogram, and in the X we specify the expansion of that monogram. And in even more complex cases, we can have a monogram, as in this case, which is posthumous, in which the monogram can be expanded to a part of a larger abbreviation. So it's the monogram corresponds to a part of a larger word, which is abbreviated to. So in this case, we have the expansion, the expand, and inside the ab and the abbreviation mark, we have the G ref monogram, and which is expanded inside the X as posthume, which is a part of the complete word, of the complete name, which is posthumous. So we can add another ab surrounding all this part, around which we put another expand. And then after the larger ab, we can add an X in which you complete the word. So EOS is the ending of the word, of the name, which was not present on the stone in the monogram. And I think, yes, this is all. Gabby, do you want to add anything on this?
No, only that that the monograms are very unlikely to come up, and if they do, they're almost certainly going to be unusual and unique and need talking about anyway. So so not to worry too much about this rather complex nested abbreviations in the final slide there. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks.